We are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the January 12th meeting of the East Hampton Town Board. Carol, would you please read the roll call?
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilman Lees.
Present.
Councilwoman Overby.
Sorry.
I'm here.
I jumped ahead. I was thinking, bonding. Present.
Councilman Bragman.
Here.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Present. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to make a couple statements. First of all, I wanted to talk about the raging coronavirus across our country and throughout our town. Numbers continue to be very high. People need to continue to be very careful about their activities in and around other folks. Please continue to wear your masks and wash hands and disinfect surfaces. Be very diligent about that. This is the best protection we have at this time. There is a rollout of the vaccine in New York State. It's somewhat slow in being rolled out. Currently, there aren't any doses within the town of East Hampton that have been allocated. I've been in contact with local healthcare providers about setting up protocols and in a place for giving the vaccine once we do have it here. As I said in my State of the Town address, I intend to open up the CDCH building and work with local healthcare professionals to ensure that our local citizens have access to the vaccine as soon as possible. Now, at this point, beyond the initial rollout for first-line healthcare workers, other categories have been recently opened up. Teachers will now be eligible. We urge everyone to go ahead and file their application to get the vaccine. You can do that by visiting our town website and learn about that through that process. There will be links to the state sign up on that form, and it will certify your eligibility. And at this point, there are only a few locations on Long Island where the vaccine is being administered to those in phase 1B and soon to be 1C. So again, we urge you to go ahead and sign up online. If you have any questions, please refer to the town's website, or there'll be links there and descriptions, also links to the state. Again, we ask for your patience. We understand that this is a somewhat frustrating rollout by the state, and this is not even just New York State, it's nationally. This is an issue. We heard the governor of Texas yesterday saying we're all set to administer it, but we need the doses. So the state's getting roughly 300,000 allotments of 300,000 doses of the vaccine at a time. Those are being distributed as quickly as possible, but we soon hope to see vaccine station being here in East Hampton and preventing the need for travel to Mid-Island to get the vaccine. So at this point, today we are dedicating our entire work session to the discussion of the South Fork Wind Farm host community agreement and access agreement discussion. This is an opportunity for the public to weigh in on this particular topic. And of course, you could make comments in general about the wind farm itself and whether or not you support the project. But just as a matter of context, I wanted to reiterate how we got here. East Hampton became the first municipality in New York State to adopt the resolution to meet 100% of the town's annual community-wide electricity consumption with renewable energy resources by the year 2020, and to meet the equivalent of 100% annual community-wide consumption in all sectors such as electricity, heating, and transportation with renewable energy resources by 2030. This was a very bold and aggressive goal when we set it in 2014. The town has continued to move forward on meeting those goals. Climate action plan was adopted and became part of the town's comprehensive plan. We've inventoried the energy use and greenhouse gas emissions for all municipal buildings. We completed a microgrid feasibility study for East Hampton. The town's issued RFPs for renewable energy facilities within the town under LIPA's 280 megawatt renewable energy RFP and clean solar initiative. The town's been certified in New York State as a climate smart community. And we've completed 44 certified actions, including inventorying emissions, decreasing energy demand of municipal operations, encouraging renewable energy, and integrating climate protection into community planning. This has meant code changes to increase energy efficiency. We constructed the first megawatt scale solar farm on Long Island's South Fork, and that was completed recently, 1.1 megawatts in the array to supply renewable energy to the East Hampton grid. We've worked towards both improving electric vehicle charging infrastructure throughout the town, with now I think more than 24 chargers in place and active. And we've started a transition from fossil fuel vehicles to hybrid plug-in electrics and straight up electric vehicles in the town's municipal fleet. We've received over $400,000 in renewable energy grants, and we've saved over $80,000 a year in energy use by the town. We cannot meet our 100% renewable energy goals with just solar energy projects and conservation alone. The development of offshore wind is a necessary and vital part of meeting the environmental challenges we face. The careful observer will note a litany of significant changes within our revered local surroundings. The rising seas and more frequent and virulent storms have increased erosion. The degradation of our waters due to harmful algal blooms, fueled in part by the atmospheric deposition of nitrogen and acid rain, have caused massive die-offs of various parts of our environment. We've seen a massive die-off in our pine forest due to our warming climate and the invasion of southern pine beetle, species that could not even a decade ago survive here. The loss of winter pastimes such as ice skating and ice boating, the total collapse of our scallop populations the last 2 years, the loss of aquatic habitat, and continuing fish and shellfish decline are due to acidification. And all of these and more are primarily symptoms of pollution and climate change driven by the use of fossil fuels. We have not just an opportunity to change the way we live, we have an obligation to change the way that we live and to protect what is left of our precious environment for ourselves and generations to come. As of today's meeting, there have been no less than 26 public meetings engaging the public in the matter of the South Fork Wind Farm. The town board work session today is being devoted to hearing from the public and collecting your comments on the proposed access and host community benefits agreements. We will review and collate all comments and discuss and answer questions presented today at the next work session, which will be on January 19th at 11 a.m. And we're going to present this format because we know a lot of people that want to make their comments known, and for efficiency's sake, we will just listen today. We ask that you keep your comments, please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. We invite you to submit written comments if you want to have a more lengthy question or discussion in your exchange with us. And please present those prior to the meeting on the 19th. We've had these documents circulated within the community for about 30 days. And I began letting the public know that they would be released starting in September. So this has been a 4+ year, I think, process. I believe we're nearing the end of it. We certainly want to hear directly from the community again about the access and host community benefits agreements. If you are in support or object, please just make those comments as brief as you can. And if you have specific questions or concerns, please enumerate them. Without any further ado, I would like to go to the lines. Michael, do we have any callers as of this time?
We most certainly do. I will unmute the first caller, last 4 digits 7155, right now.
Yes, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you just fine. Thank you. If you could state your name for the record, please.
Okay. Yes, good morning. My name is Paul Munoz. I'm a resident of the Springs, and I'm also the vice chair of the Energy Sustainability Committee for East Hampton. And I'd like to thank you for the time. And I wanted to express on behalf of our committee our gratitude for your leadership and hard work in pursuit of this project. Lately, it seems that a lot of negatives and misinformation have been shared. So I'd just like to highlight some of the positive impacts that the South Fork Wind Farm will have on our community and therefore our planet. So I think that I'm in agreement with everything you just mentioned, and this is an opportunity for East Hampton to continue to be the beacon of change that's necessary for our battle against climate change. And we live in an area that's so beautiful, and is, we see the impacts firsthand with our beaches and, everything that we love about the East End. So I think that, this is obviously going to have some short-term impacts with the install of the cables and everything like that. But in turn, I think the positives far outweigh the negatives. And I just wanted to say that this is necessary, and I commend you again. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you for calling, Paul. Michael, do we have any other callers?
Yes, moving on to the next caller, last 4 digits 7550. I'm unmuting now.
Yeah, good morning. This is Roger Clayman. I am the executive director of the Long Island Federation. And I have in comments, so I'll summarize in the interest of time. I also want to thank you, the supervisor and the town board, for your hard work in arriving at the joint proposal, which I understand has undergone extensive discussion within the community, the relevant agencies. Of course, as a labor movement, we're excited about the possibility that this new industry will bring to Long Island the many, many jobs that will be good-paying jobs that will positively affect the wealth and the survivability of our communities, the South Fork included. In addition to those issues, I think the fact is you picked the best route for the cable, and the agreement includes provisions to ensure that the cable is installed, maintained, and decommissioned in a way that will protect and preserve the natural resources and protect public safety. I know you will also be helping meet the state goals, and we think that's for renewable energy and meeting the goal of generating 9,000 megawatts of electricity from offshore wind. So that's important in many ways. I think we're very fortunate to be working with developers, Ørsted and Eversource, which have a commitment to our environment, but also a commitment for training. And we know this industry will provide our jobs for our members and a new generation of workers who enter the workforce throughout this decade, all of whom reside on Long Island, and in many cases right here in East Hampton. So thank you for your diligence, and thank you, and I hope you will push this agreement forward.
Thank you, Roger, for calling today.
Moving on to the next caller, Mr. Supervisor, the last 4 digits are 6350. Unmuting now.
Good morning. This is Julie Ty. I'm president of the New York League of Conservation Voters. Thank you for providing this opportunity to comment on this important project today. And we appreciate in particular the amount of time that Supervisor Van Scoyac and the entire board have invested in making sure that you get it right. The New York League of Conservation Voters is strongly committed to a clean energy future, and renewable energy, including offshore wind, is a top priority for us both statewide and here in Long Island. New York and East Hampton have set ambitious clean energy goals, which you are to be commended for, and offshore wind is a critical component needed to meet our goals, reduce our reliance on polluting fossil fuel energy sources, and recenter around a green energy economy, which does not only begin to address climate change, but also provide green jobs and improve public health. Simply put, we cannot achieve our climate goals without shifting to renewable energy sources. But our climate objectives will also have local impacts. And NYLCV supports vibrant communities and are committed to ensuring that developers follow through on their promises and provide clear and transparent information to communities that will be home to energy infrastructure. To that end, last week, NYLCV Education Fund hosted a forum where community members were able to ask questions and get information about the project's impact, not on a global or statewide scale, but here in East Hampton and specifically in Wainscott. A recording of that forum is available on our YouTube page, as well as www.nylcvef.org, and we're in the process of pulling together answers to additional questions that we were not able to get to during that forum. We hope you will use these and future forums held by organizations like NYLCV to educate the public and to serve as a resource on critical environmental issues. To meet our clean energy goals, we can't only talk about policy. We need to actually build projects and connect them to the grid and ensure projects are developed responsibly. The thorough and lengthy review the town undertook before coming to an agreement with the developer is laudable and will ensure the project is done in a fashion that reflects local concerns and protects natural resources. We strongly support the town of East Hampton granting the easement agreement permitting South Fork Wind to place the transmission cable along Beach Lane. After months of discussion and negotiation, culminating in the signing of the joint proposal by the 5 New York State agencies, the developers, we believe, have thoroughly addressed the concerns of all stakeholders. Approving this agreement will move us closer to the creation of a brand new industry, bringing with it hundreds of high-paying jobs while powering over 70,000 homes with clean energy. As New York's first offshore wind farm, guided by our leadership, South Fork Wind will be a historic accomplishment for Long Island. It's time to vote in favor of this project, and we strongly encourage you to advance the agreement. And thank you very much for this time and the opportunity to participate today.
Thank you, Julie.
Moving on to the next caller, Mr. Supervisor. The last 4 digits are 1944. Unmuting now.
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call. My name is Rosemary Arnold. I am a resident of Wainscott. I live at Rosie Meadow Farm on Sayers Path, and I'm also an attorney. While I am in favor of sustainable energy and doing things to support climate change, I feel strongly that this easement agreement is flawed and points out public safety dangers that will be caused by Ørsted's construction. This town board would never let someone build a house that posed public safety issues, but that is what these agreements allow you to do. You would also not let someone start constructing a house without plans, but that's what your agreements do. Your agreements reference the environmental management and construction plan about 55 times. That EM&CP does not exist. In fact, Ørsted probably purposely isn't going to submit that until after it has received all approvals. It's not a surprise why. There are construction safety issues. Building on a long, narrow, dead-end street in a residential neighborhood requires waivers to at least 5 state building and fire safety codes. During the Article 7 proceeding, sworn expert testimony showed that Ørsted will not be able to construct and install the high-voltage cable on Beach Lane in compliance with multiple New York State fire and building safety codes. Specifically, at least 2 provisions of the New York State Building Code cannot be complied with under the circumstances. Section 3301.2 regarding construction equipment and materials, and Section 3306.1 regarding protecting pedestrians. Also, at least 3 provisions of the New York State Fire Code cannot be complied with under the circumstances. These include Sections 503 503.2.1, Sections 503.2.3, and 503.2.5. Since none of you hired construction and safety experts, you probably didn't know that. As a lawyer, when I have a case which is outside my area of expertise, such as a medical malpractice case, I consistently rely upon experts to teach me what I don't know as a lawyer. You did not do that. The easement agreement then provides that that any state or local legal provision purporting to require any approval, consent, permit, certificate, or other condition for the construction or operation of the project authorized by certificate shall not apply. That means that Orsted can waive all fire and building safety codes. Deputy Supervisor Overby, you and I were on the Wayne Scott Citizens Advisory Committee meeting on Saturday. You said at our meeting, quote, I would not waive any of those for the health and safety of the community members, end quote. By trying to sign this very poorly negotiated document, you are allowing Orsted to do just that, violate building and fire safety codes. The board should require Orsted to agree not to violate or waive any building and fire safety codes. You don't need a law degree to understand that. One, this is just common sense. At a bare minimum, the town's citizens and the board should be fully informed before any vote is taken as to all waivers Orsted may seek related to the health and safety. There must be sunlight shined on the safety waiver issue for the benefit of all Rain Scout residents and our young children. Thank you for listening to me.
Rosemarie, thank you. Appreciate your comments very much, and we certainly will investigate the sections that you've highlighted here today. Thank you.
You're welcome. I will put my comments in writing so that you have them.
We appreciate that very much. Thank you. You can send them to the clerk of East Hampton.
Will do.
Moving on to the next
Thank you.
caller.
Be well.
The last four digits of the next caller are 5474. Unmuting now.
Hello, my name is Mariah Dignan, and I am the Long Island organizer for Climate Jobs New York. I would like to take the moment to thank the town supervisor, the town board, and trustees for their tireless efforts to ensure that the joint proposal and related easements are protecting the residents and beaches of East Hampton. Climate Jobs New York is a growing coalition of labor unions representing 2.6 million working New Yorkers, united to combat climate change and reverse inequality. CJNY is educating fellow workers, building alliances, and advocating for policy solutions, demonstrating that we do not have to choose between a healthy planet and good jobs. I support the joint proposal and easement agreements between Orsted Eversource and the town of East Hampton. The Beach Lane cable route mitigates community and environmental impacts and is demonstrated in numerous field surveys, samplings, and studies, both on land and in the water. The town, developer, and New York State agencies have thoroughly analyzed this route and even secured additional compromises like construction schedules, a comprehensive fisheries compensation plan, and pedestrian access to the beach. The Beach Lane route and related infrastructure upgrades will increase the resilience of our transmission infrastructure and inject clean renewable energy into our grid. This is the clear option to responsibly develop offshore wind energy while creating good union jobs. The South Fork Wind Project is crucial in serving a local demand for energy. It is also New York's inaugural offshore wind project and sets the stage for offshore wind development in the state. In a time where workers need it the most, let's help launch a green economic recovery to create good union jobs while addressing the climate crisis. In addition to these oral comments, I'll be submitting Climate Jobs New York's public comments on the draft JP to Judge Esposito from October 28, 2020. I urge the town trustees and board to pass a resolution formally adopting the joint proposal and easement agreements. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for calling, Maya.
Moving on to the next caller. The last four digits are 1378. 8, unmuting right now.
Thank you so much. This is Adrian Esposito, the Executive Director of Citizens Campaign for the Environment. CCE is a statewide environmental and public health organization with 120,000 members, thousands of which reside in the town of East Hampton. Thank you so much for the opportunity to comment today. And I really want to start out with a very heartfelt thank you to the supervisor and all of the board members. I think this wind project has been a lot of work for you guys. You've put a lot of thought, a lot of effort, and a lot of research and hard work into it. And I just want to say we do appreciate that. We know you're paving ground in New York State, and being the first ones for this type of work can be extra challenging. So thank you for your effort and your due diligence. We are here today to support you signing the agreement. We are at a really pivotal time. The delays are actually something that impedes not only the town from reaching their goals, but also New York State from reaching our climate change goals. And although you are the first town, you're not going to be the last town. Many other towns will be looking at cable connections and looking at cable routes as well. So you are really setting the pace and setting the tone for the future of renewable energy in this state. Last night I was participated in the Board of Trustees meeting, and there was actually someone who called to complain that this project will not reduce carbon because it will not close any fossil fuel power plants. But please, town board, let's remember how we got into this situation. This project is in response to an RFP put out by LIPA because there is a higher electricity demand on the South Fork. So it's either wind or a new fossil fuel power plant. So if you think it's hard, siting a cable connection, imagine how challenging it would be to site a new fossil fuel power plant in your town. And so while this project might not be closing a fossil fuel power plant, it is, however, preventing a new one from being established. And the need for greater electricity in your town was identified before the pandemic, before the increase in year-round population in your town. So I know that, meeting the electricity needs and the power needs is not a luxury item, right? It's a necessity. And it's all of our obligations to meet these necessities of life in a way where we're not destroying the planet and we're not destroying what it is we love about where we live. And not only is East Hampton on the front lines of wind power, you're also on the front lines of climate change. So you have an extra responsibility to act, to implement solutions. So again, we urge you to move this along, get this done, not just for your town, although obviously you have a special interest in that, but this is about the rest of the island as well. Thank you so much again for your effort, your time, and your focus, and I look forward to working with you all on this project and many other environmental and public health protection initiatives. Thank you again.
Thank you, Adrian. Michael?
Moving on, the next caller's last 4 digits are 1044. Unmuting now.
It's Linda James, a resident of East Hampton, calling. As a resident.
Miss James, excuse me.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be back.
Hi, Linda. Linda, can you turn off your TV or other device that's playing in the background?
Oh, okay.
Much better. Are you still there?
We actually lost the call, Mr. Supervisor. When she calls back in, I can take her if you want me to go to the next call first.
Okay. Just as a cautionary comment, please, if you're calling in, do not have your television or other device streaming the meeting at the same time. It will cause feedback and we won't be able to hear your comments.
Moving on to the next caller. Last four digits are 7127. One moment. Unmuting now.
Hello, thank you for taking public comments. This is Gowrie Edlick. I'm chairwoman of the Citizens for the Preservation of Wainscott. I and other local community members will have public comments today. We sent in a detailed review of the various agreements. They will also be available to the public at wainscott.org/comments. These agreements are further evidence this process was flawed from the beginning, with a town that did no independent review with independent experts, who was more focused on appeasing a wind farm developer in the rush to be the first, was unduly influenced by the opportunity to grab some dollars, and otherwise took the expedient approach given the relatively small number of voters in Wainscott. When challenged as to the flaws in the plan for a Wainscott landing site, the stock answer to those who dared ask challenging questions was personal attacks and name-calling, rather than engaging on the merits. So what is the result of the town's abdication of careful review? Innumerable public safety, contractual, and environmental issues that are unaddressed in the agreements. As you review the letter we've submitted and hear the experts we've assembled, the only rational response is to freeze the grant of any easement until further review and all regulatory approvals are obtained. Having relied on the regulatory process rather than your own work, it would be totally irresponsible to grant an easement before even that work is done. And as well, and as will be explained by our lawyers, it is also illegal. The proponents keep on saying that there's been too much delay already. This is nonsensical. The only delay has been on Ørsted's part and/or has been caused by the state and federal approval processes. No delay whatsoever has been caused by these agreements not having been entered into. And the signing of them will not speed up the process one iota. What signing the agreements now will do is to lock the town into the Wainscott route without a clear understanding of all the problems that will be caused by this huge project and how these problems will be remediated. So why all your haste? The supervisor claims it's okay to sign these agreements because they're conditioned on an Article 7 process approval. We disagree. For one, these are bad agreements, regardless of any conditionality you say you have in there. Second, they prejudge the issue. The whole purpose of an Article 7 review is to pick an alternative. You've picked an alternative. So what's even the point of the Article 7 process? It totally prejudges the issue. Third, signing these agreements now is illegal. It's ironic that the very same folks who hold themselves up as environmentalists are violating one of the best environmental laws we have, SECRA. We regret it's come to this, but it was also avoidable if you'd only engaged with the community from the beginning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gori. And we look forward to those comments in writing, addressing those.
Supervisor, my first name is actually pronounced Gowrie, like the Bowery, Gowrie. I think I've mentioned it a few times now.
I apologize for the mispronunciation. I've been the victim of mispronunciation of my name as well over the years, but I apologize. Gowrie.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next caller, the last four digits 7144. I'm unmuting now.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Great, thank you. Good morning. My name is Ross Gould. I am the Vice President for Supply Chain Development for the Business Network of Offshore Wind. And I would like to thank the East Hampton town trustees and board for the opportunity to address the real estate and community host agreements relating to the South Fork Wind Farm under consideration today. The draft agreements have undergone extensive discussion within the community and with relevant state agencies, and we thank you for all your hard work and the time and effort you've put into making sure that this is being done and being done in a correct manner. The Business Network for Offshore Wind is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is exclusively focused on the development of offshore wind industry and its supply chain. Since 2012, the network has brought together business and government, both domestically and internationally, to educate and enable American businesses of all sizes to enter the offshore wind market. The network uses the voice of its diverse membership, comprised of the full spectrum of offshore wind supply chain, to educate and support federal, state, and local policies to advance the development of the U.S. offshore wind industry. And I am here on behalf of the 340 members of the Business Network for Offshore Wind, including 40 members in New York State, in support of the agreement that you have reached today. Offshore wind energy is a green alternative critical to resolving growing environmental problems. The global offshore wind energy sector continues to grow, spurring innovation and providing new revenue sources and career opportunities. The offshore wind industry creates jobs, and as we look to recover from the economic damage of the global pandemic you were discussing earlier in this meeting, these jobs are needed. Offshore wind presents an enormous economic opportunity and job opportunity for the state of New York and Long Island. There are over 700 companies in New York who are capable and interested in participating in the offshore wind industry, and these 700 companies have told the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority that they are open to business for the offshore wind industry. With 3 projects scheduled for New York, these projects will bring 1,600 jobs to New York and the investment of $400 million in port infrastructure from Long Island all the way up to Albany, paving the way for a whole new green industry. The U.S. Department of Energy has estimated that each 800 megawatt project will support 5,000 direct, indirect, and induced jobs. The South Fork Wind, coupled with the other 2 currently awarded offshore wind projects to be sited off Long Island, offer significant opportunity for economic development and the creation of good-paying and green economy jobs. Long Island can become a center for an offshore wind workforce that will be at the center of a major industry that helps rebuild our economy post-COVID, and importantly for individuals living in a beachfront community, combats climate change. It's estimated that the 3 currently awarded projects are projected to create more than 1,600 jobs and generate $3.2 billion in revenue. So listen, hello?
Continue.
Yes, Ross, we're kind of at the end of the 3 minutes. If you could please wrap it up.
Okay.
And we look forward
I
to
just want to thank
written
you for your
comments
time.
as well.
Yes, I want to thank you for your time and let you know that we are support the South Fork Wind Project and the agreement you've all reached. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much. Michael?
Yes, moving on. The next caller's last 4 digits are 1044. We have Miss James back, I believe. Unmuting now.
Yes, once again, Linda James, an East Hampton resident. I support the joint proposal and easement agreements between Orsett, Eversource, and East Hampton Town that's under discussion today, and for which you and the town board have been working so assiduously over the many years. Also, as a local resident, I also support your leadership, your badge of courage in the village, the town, the state, and in the United States as we face this climate change that is having such an impact in our local community. It's your badge of courage that makes us proud, and it's your red badge of courage that makes you the leaders that you are, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
Moving on to
Michael?
Yes, moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 2333. I'm unmuting now.
Hi, Mike Mahoney. And I want to thank you for having this hearing. And I want to thank Peter for forwarding along something I sent in yesterday that I had problems with email address. In 3 minutes is really not enough time, but I appreciate the time that you give me, so I'll start talking about that. And what I want to address is the comparison that's been made to this project is installing water mains. I think that it's really a big stretch to compare. Water mains were done on the sides of the road. The traffic was not disrupted. Public safety was not disrupted. The size and scope of this project is significantly larger. Installing 138 cable fiber optics cables is not the same thing as installing a water main that unfortunately was created because of bad things happening to our water supply. So I want to see that ended. We talk about miscommunications. Let's be open about all of the communication. This is a large industrial commercial operation. Orsted says that they hope to complete it in one season. But, they also want to start earlier, and they retain the right to go longer. They're going to be working 6 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in a residential neighborhood. And it's going to be disturbing to us. It's not the right location for this shore cable when other options are available. Orsted presented an alternative, digging up 27, which is absolutely ridiculous. But did we go back to them and say, hey, we need another alternative? I don't believe that we have. I strongly encourage you not to sign this agreement or give them any easements until after the Article 7 is completed. You'll find that you will be in a stronger negotiation position because they will need this at that time if they get approved by NYSERDA and BOEM. They have paid out or are going to pay out more to Sunrise Wind. They're committed to spending more money over in New London, Connecticut for their pier reconstruction. Water mains are installed as a common thing in communities. Installing high voltage cables on a residential street that is used regularly all season long. This is not a matter of a few months. This is going to be a long period of time that you're going to be disrupting the life of people that live on that street and use that beach. And it's not just Wainscott residents that use that beach. All of East Hampton is welcome to use that beach. The parking lot we have is small. The road access is limited. And they can say, well, we're going to take the right-of-ways on the side of the road and everything else. If they're planning on putting this thing where they have shown, it's in the middle of the street, and that's going to need a little room for vehicles, pedestrians, bikers, joggers, vehicles, and emergency vehicles to transfer over. I encourage you to go not sign this. Let this thing continue to be unfolding through the NYSERDA process. Don't send a signal that you're behind landing that cable in Wainscott when you clearly know that the people of Wainscott, like Montauk and Amagansett, have said, no, they don't want it. And they have gone ahead, the citizens organized this and paid for it in response to Orsted's request for alternatives. So they gave them alternatives. And they just said, they're not interested in those. They're not going to work. Ask them to come up with a better alternative. And I thank you for giving this time to talk. I know that you all have received the email that I sent. I asked you to study it, tear it apart, prove me wrong on anything. I would gladly find out that we're going to be able to reduce our fossil fuel burning plants. And to address the woman that spoke earlier, I was the woman at the town trustees, I was the man that the town trustees mentioned that said that we are going to be increasing our CO2. And yes, we need more power, but we can't deliver the power throughout our East Hampton community. The infrastructure of PSE&G and LIPA is old. They're doing small upgrades. It needs a significant upgrade. We will be paying for that as well as this. I thank you for listening to me. Have a great day and stay safe all.
You too. Thank you, Michael.
Moving on to the next caller. The last four digits are 1833. Unmuting right now.
Yes, hello, this is Fran. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yes, who's
Oh,
calling?
great. This is Francesca Rhiannon. I'm here. I'm a resident of Springs, and I'm also a member of the East Hampton Energy Sustainability Committee, a climate reality leader, and a member of Long Islanders for Climate Justice. First of all, I also want to thank the incredible work and persistence of this town board, who I regard have been acting to save our community. Because as anyone who's been paying attention knows, we have perhaps 8 to 10 years at the most to turn the climate around so that we can survive. And here in Springs, the densest part of East Hampton, the part of East Hampton that has the most low-income and moderate-income residents, we stand to lose huge amounts of our shoreline to rising seas due to climate change. That's not going to be an inconvenience for a few months while some infrastructure gets built. That's permanent. And by the way, Wainscott will also suffer the same fate. So we have really no time to lose. Moreover, the question was raised about no more, that this would not close down fossil fuel plants. Well, New York just passed last year a groundbreaking climate action plan that will close down fossil fuel plants all over, but it depends on offshore wind to actually provide a huge amount of that clean energy. So those two things go in tandem. We cannot close fossil fuel plants all over New York State, including on Long Island, without having offshore wind. Now, I would just like to address briefly the benefits. This package of benefits went from, in the beginning it was $8 million. Now it's somewhere around $29 million, if I'm correct on that. Vastly increased. And I would like to argue that two important priorities for the spending of this money be, first of all, to build resilience in East Hampton as a whole by having infrastructure projects that allow us to weather extreme weather, to have more distributed energy resources around the community when it is necessary to decouple from the grid because the grid is down, and secondly, to also promote energy efficiency and adoption of, basically energy efficiency projects that homeowners of low and moderate income, like so many of our residents here in Springs, can adopt for their homes. So to give them subsidies for the adoption of energy efficiency, that will do two things. One, it will decrease our energy needs and the energy low. It will also build support for the climate action that we absolutely must take if we are to survive as a species. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Francesca.
Moving on to the next caller. The last four digits are 9265. I'm unmuting now.
Thank you. Good morning to the supervisor and to the town council. My name is Jim Daigle. I am a resident of Wainscott, full year, full term.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'll start off by, sorry?
I said good morning, Jim.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I'll start off by saying I support sustainable energy sources. I support the government's action, and your action in particular, and leadership in this area. I respect the questions that we've heard repeatedly about, but I would have to say I support the short-term inconvenience to advance a 20-year sustainable energy program. However, I do not yet support South Fork Wind. That is in process. I have a number of specific questions that, despite several years of diligent involvement with the Wainscott CAC and independent research, I have been unable to answer. Perhaps this is the forum to address this, perhaps it's not, but it is at least the forum to get these questions on the record. The first question is about line capacity and the easement capacity. South Fork Wind is 15 turbines. My understanding is that the cable being pulled and the physical width and capacity of the easement would allow additional turbines to have their power come aboard on Beach Lane without separate negotiations with the town of East Hampton. I do not fully understand if this is correct or incorrect, but this is what has been reported. Next, community benefits. My latest understanding of community benefits are that the burying of utility lines along Beach Lane has been removed from community benefits. However, I will point out that I believe it was either Wednesday or Thursday night's program by Eversource and other parties, their exhibits show that, page 12 in specific of their exhibits, showed that utility cables would still be buried along Beach Lane. So I'm not entirely certain that Eversource, if indeed that has been removed from community benefits, I don't think Eversource knows that or has dealt with it yet. Next, in rates, there have been a lot of discussions about rates, about uncertainty about rates, the NDAs that applied between the LLC and Long Island Power. And I would just like put on the record that to sign any agreement when rates are unknown is a problem. It just, that's a fundamental make no sense. Last item, or second to last item, I'm sorry, is community benefits in general. I think as a business person, it's pretty easy to understand that community benefits are paid for by the funds of the LLC. The LLC is funded by rate holders and electricity users in East Hampton. Therefore, I think it's not a short jump to look at community benefits as a tax on East Hampton residents. And while it's beautiful to focus on the benefits that the town and Wainscott receive through this program, if we can be straightforward and call it a tax, we have a problem. We heard on Thursday night's community call that Peter Van Scoyac has solar panels. I have solar panels. Lots of people have solar panels. We won't pay for the community benefits. We won't pay for the tax. We don't use this electricity. We're already a step ahead. The folks who will pay for the community benefits, I think it was discussed earlier on the call, are largely Springs residents as the most densely populated area of East Hampton. And the cost of the community benefits and the cost of higher electricity to pay for those community benefits will largely fall on full-time residents. So I think there are some issues there that should be discussed and should be presented and have not yet been. My last point is just blunt. Please do not sign anything until the state has approved this project. There is no advantage. It's easy to talk about that $500,000 money up front, but we lose all negotiating capability and all ability to learn about what the specific project and route and details and engineering will be if we sign before that's final. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling, Jim. And just to reiterate my comments earlier, in case anybody tuning in later hasn't heard them, we are taking comments and questions today. We will review many of these questions we do have answers for. We will collate those questions and we'll have a discussion at the next work session on January 19th at 11 o'clock. Present all the comments that we get today in summary and engage back with the public in terms of putting that information back out and addressing those specific questions and concerns.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Next caller, please. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, moving on to the next caller. The last four digits are 5502. unmuting right now.
Good morning. This is Jerry Mulligan. I'm a resident of East Hampton town. Hang on. First of all, I would like to thank the board. They've been heavily involved in all of the negotiations for the joint proposal, and their public service is just exemplary. I have been involved with the Article 7 process and had the privilege of attending several hundred hours of hearings dealing with all of the issues that have come up in connection with the joint proposal and the project. The project has been long and the vetting has been complete. The public of East Hampton has been represented by the town and by the trustees and by the state of New York, which all 5 New York state agencies, especially the Department of Environmental Conservation, who knows the laws better than anyone else, attended these hearings with specialists, attorneys, and advisors, and has thoroughly reviewed all aspects of the project. I'm startled at the implication that experts have not been hired. We've had the best experts who represent us and only us. Climate change is here, and fossil fuels are a big contributor to global warming. Sea rise, coastal erosion, the impacts just go on and on. South Fork wind will help deal with these issues. I believe the RFP for South Fork went out in 2015. I believe they started working on this process in 2017. We're now 4 years into it, and the time has come to approve and sign the host community agreement and the easement agreement. If we don't get this done, we only have ourselves to blame. Heather Hills remains an option until these documents are signed, and if it goes the Heather Hills route, not only does it create a lot of problems for East Hampton, $0 would go to the town and $0 would go to the trustees. So I encourage the town board and the trustees to get together. We're all on the same team here. It's a team of 14, 5 board members and 9 trustees. This is not a competition, and we have to come up with a reasonable agreement on how the allocation of funds is going to work. It is clear that the town is a much larger organization. It has a much larger budget, a larger infrastructure, and the capacity, the capacity to take on larger projects. So I encourage strongly the town and the trustees to promptly agree on the allocation of funds. The time has come to sign these documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 1115. I'm unmuting right now.
Good morning. This is Lance Gatko, and I'm a lawyer for Citizens for the Preservation of Wainscott. Earlier this morning, we submitted a 25. Good morning. Earlier this morning, we submitted a 25-page letter to the board presenting a detailed analysis and critique of these agreements. I'm not going to go through that, obviously, in my few minutes here, but I would like to just briefly summarize 3 important points. First, and again, the letter goes into this in great detail. The agreements are insufficient to protect the town and its citizens and give Ørsted far too much latitude. There are provisions in the agreements concerning what Ørsted has to do and is not required to do, and how Ørsted is protected from damages that essentially make Ørsted's obligations proverbial Swiss cheese. We commend our letter to the board's and public's review so they can understand all the ways in which the agreements are insufficient. Second, the easement agreement expressly incorporates by reference, and our letter shows this in detail, a host of conditions and standards and rules and plans and documents that do not exist yet and are to be determined. The town should not be entering into these agreements without the board knowing and the public knowing exactly what the terms and conditions and plans and specifications will be that will govern this massive project. And respectfully, it's not a badge of courage to go ahead and proceed without such knowledge. Third, as set forth in our letter, the grant of the easement now, prior to completion of an environmental review, is plainly illegal. New York law requires a detailed environmental impact statement whenever a government agency, including town boards, take any action in connection with a project which may have a significant effect on the environment, and Ørsted's project certainly qualifies under that standard. For Ørsted's project, that environmental review is going to be performed by the Public Service Commission, but that has not yet happened. Now, the town or its council might think that granting the easement now would be okay because it's subject to the PSC's environmental review. But the law is clear, and we cited in our letter, that town boards cannot grant easements with an after-the-fact environmental review to follow. Finally, we present documentary evidence in our letter showing that this unnecessary rush to grant the easement appears to be motivated by a desire to, quote, take the wind out of the sails, close quote, of the Wainscott Village Incorporation movement. That's just undemocratic and unacceptable, and will further call into question the legality of the precipitous grant of an easement at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Michael, next caller, please.
Moving on, the next caller's last four digits are 0945. Unmuting now. Hello, caller. You're live with the town board. Your last four digits of your phone are 0945. Hearing nothing, Mr. Supervisor, I can move on.
Thank you, Michael.
The next caller, the last four digits are 9015. I'm unmuting right now.
My name is Michael Hansen, and I live in Wainscott. I've been hearing a similar argument made by those who oppose this project. First, they begin by saying that they are for renewable energy, that they are supportive of offshore wind. But then they stop and say, but let's wait. Now is not the time. They say, why rush? Why the haste? This project has not been haste, has not been rushed. It did not begin last week or last month. As you said, Peter, it's been years in the making. I know this because I am a party to the settlement hearing, the Article 7 process. And I have been in numerous meetings and listened to hours and hours of testimony and cross-examination. The process has been methodical. It has been exhaustive. 5 New York state agencies participated in the hearing, along with the East Hampton Town, the East Hampton Town trustees, and many others. And the opponents of this project know this process has been thorough because we have been in the same meetings and listened to the same hours of testimony. And yet they repeat their arguments, wait, wait, wait. Well, the time for waiting is over. The time to act is today. My 3 children are under 10 years old. They will live to see the tricentennial of this country. I support this offshore wind project because I want a better life for them. And this project, this modest project, is a step forward to a clean energy future. So thank you, East Hampton Town Board. Thank you, East Hampton trustees. Now is the time.
Thank you, Michael.
Moving on to the next caller. The last four digits are 9154. Unmuting right now.
Supervisor Vance Goyak and members of the town board, thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. My name is Simon Kinsella. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Good afternoon, Si.
Good afternoon. The town of East Hampton should not proceed with any easement agreement or host community agreement without firstly requiring South Fork Wind to disclose to town ratepayers the price that we will have to pay for electricity from the South Fork Wind Farm and amount of its additional capacity, neither of which has been publicly disclosed. We know only that electricity from South Fork Wind's 90 megawatt wind farm is twice the price for the same renewable energy from Sunrise Wind. That is only 3 nautical miles away. Furthermore, the town should require that there be an environmental review that includes the test results of the 34 soil and groundwater samples currently being taken from within the onshore construction corridor that up to date has not been included in the Article 7 review. In other words, there has been no environmental review of the PFAS contamination within the proposed construction corridor within Wainscott. One can hardly call this a rigorous environmental review. Lastly, the town has been focusing on a $29 million windfall over 20 years, pun intended, but it has completely ignored the potential liability issues related to possible remediation of a highly contaminated construction site that could easily exceed what the town is receiving from South Fork Wind. This is a bad and dangerous deal, and the town needs to seek expert advice, which up to date it has not. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much for calling.
Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 0467. Unmuting the caller now.
Hi, this is Rich Silver. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Morning. It's Rich Silver. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to make some brief comments. I'm a year-round resident of Montauk and a member of East Hampton's Energy, Sustainability, and Resiliency Committee. I want to express my support for the Wind Host Community Agreement and Easement Agreement, as well as the South Fork Wind Farm. I also want to thank the town board for moving the process forward as carefully and comprehensively as possible, despite the challenges. Given that the South Fork Wind Farm represents the state's first offshore wind farm project, I would echo Paul Munoz's comments that it represents an important opportunity for East Hampton to be a leader and to set an example for other communities across the country. And after closely following the detailed analysis and discussion about the cable landing location as part of the lengthy, extremely comprehensive Article 7 process, and appreciating that there is no perfect location, I do favor the current proposed plan. This would represent the shortest and least environmentally impactful route entirely underground to the substation, with a temporary inconvenience to local residents during construction. Lastly, while I realize that the town's goal of 100% renewable energy by 2030 cannot be achieved without offshore wind power, I look forward to witnessing the outcome of ongoing and future aggressive energy conservation measures in all parts of the public and private sectors. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rich.
Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 4956. Unmuting now.
Hello, good afternoon.
Caller with the last 4 digits, 4956. You're live with the Town Board of East Hampton. Hearing them, their line's open, Mr. Supervisor, but they're not responding. I can mute and move on to the next caller.
Yes, if you just put them back in the queue and we'll move on. Thank you.
Sure. The next caller's last 4 digits are 8941. Unmuting now.
Hi, Jordan Taramo, resident of Wayne Scott. I guess I have comments and questions along the way, if you'd be kind enough just to jot down the questions as stated for when you decide to answer them. I would like to know why the town board decided not to retain independent experts to evaluate the project. The reason I ask is a project like this has never been seen before in New York. It involves complicated engineering and scientific information that the town board may not fully understand, and which has been presented by the wind developer who is looking out for their own interests, not the community's. The town board hired specialized lawyers to assist them, but there has been no consultation with independent electrical engineers, environmental engineers, construction safety experts, or civil engineers. Next comment question, how do we know if Beach Lane is the best place to land this transmission cable? Because it looks like the wind company picked the shortest, cheapest option, and the town board just went along with it. What building and fire safety codes will be violated because of the long, narrow, dead-end residential street? What are the hazardous materials that the company said they will use? Looks like the town owned land at the airport. That was the source of the PFAS and PFOA contamination in Wayne Scott. What independent environmental engineers have you hired to understand the implications of the major construction work that Orsted is proposing? So all this makes me wonder if we have enough of an understanding of this project to sign these agreements at this time. I don't understand the rush, or what is the rush. It's my understanding that more information is yet to be submitted by the developer, some of it highly technical. I'm talking about the environmental management and construction plan, which will cover vegetation clearing, location of temporary laydown areas, emergency access lanes, residential safety, noise control, drilling work plans, dewatering plans, hazardous waste plans, and many other important details and plans that need to be thoroughly reviewed and evaluated. Would the town allow any of us to build a building or a house or anything on our properties without submitting our plans to you and have you look at it? Why have you not requested these building plans for a $2 billion project? How do you know what state and local fire safety codes will be violated? I request that the town board hold off on signing any agreements until all of the details are fully evaluated by independent experts that you hire to make sure that this town knows what it's signing on to. There's no harm in waiting until all the information is available. And I would expect the town board to rely on the advice of its own independent technical experts, not the developer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 7487. Unmuting right now.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Vanskoyak and the board. This is Pam Mahoney calling from Wayne Scott. And to reiterate what Michael Hansen has said, we have spent many hours in meetings and going over so much of this project, as well as spending many hours researching projects in other states, other projects that Eversource has gotten themselves involved in, as well as projects in Europe. And I think that we're being forced to accept the Beach Lane landing without another viable, realistic alternative for us to consider. And I think that's always been the case from the very beginning. They said they could land the cable at Hither Hills and run the cable under the shoulder of the Montauk Highway and through the village, but that really was not something that any of us took seriously. It wasn't going to happen. It would take too long and would be highly disruptive to residents and businesses and traffic along the whole route. And it unfortunately looks to most of us like Orsted offered the Hither Hills to guarantee that the town would go in a different direction. And that's very disconcerting. The whole Article 7 process was geared to coming up with the best to the best location and to look at all the different alternatives, and that really has not happened. And we also thought that there would be tests. We were told there were going to be tests done at the Heather Hills site, and that hasn't happened. There are landing sites I know other than Beach Lane that would not have the same safety concerns. Beach Lane is a very narrow street. I've known it all of my life. I've known the Wainscott Beach all of my life. And if you think there's erosion now, I have wonderful pictures going back to the 50s that would show you what real erosion is. And I think we need to keep it off that beach, and we need to keep the transmission cables out of our residential neighborhoods. Governor Cuomo has indicated that that was to be minimized, and yet this is just the opposite. This is putting it down a residential street that is so narrow in many respects that we watch big rigs back all the way down to Main Street because they have no place to turn around. And it's been kind of interesting to watch, and of course we have a lot of it on camera. There is no place. And I noticed also that they were supposed to be working on Beach Lane last Monday, and we were, as an abutting property, informed of that via the mail, but they didn't start working until Wednesday because there was activity on Tuesday, and I think it would have been good for everybody to see that. It's not the right location for this, and I can't stress that enough. And I do look at photographs, aerial photographs of other projects to see what kind of neighborhoods and streets they're going into, and it's kind of interesting. And I think we all need to do some research on our own. And I don't think, unless we have a real comparison of the alternatives, that Beach Lane is the right location at all. And I don't think we should be signing any documentation or any agreements to that effect. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pam.
Moving on to the
Michael?
next caller. The last four digits are 3099. Unmuting now. Looks like we lost that caller. I'll move on to the next caller. The last four digits are 0299.
Good morning, Peter and members of the town board. It's Carolyn Logan calling. As you know, I'm chair of the Wainscott Citizens Advisory Committee meeting. Thank you so much for dedicating so much time at your work session this morning to this really important issue of the South Fork wind farm agreements. I want to confine my remarks simply to the South Fork wind easement agreement. By now, you should have received the letter that the Wainscott CAC sent to all the town board members yesterday, and I would just like to read the introductory paragraph since there won't be enough time to read it in its entirety. To the town board, on January 9th at the first Wainscott Citizens Advisory Committee meeting of 2021, 80 people attended, many in order to learn more or to air their concerns about the proposed South Fork wind farm. The WCAC has written to you several times to request a full environmental review before the granting of an easement. We write again to you today to request that the town board refrain from signing the South Fork easement agreement until the Public Service Commission's Article 7 review is complete. We believe this would not only foster a more balanced evaluation of the project and its alternatives, it also would provide time for clarification and discussion and possible action on Wainscott residents' issues and concerns. I'd like to thank you for having made that draft easement agreement available since mid-December and it was really remarkable to see how many people had taken the time to look through it and to think about it. And even though we, as Wayne-Scott residents, might not be experts on the subject, we do care enough to take the time to look at this, to think about it, and to try and see how it could be improved. So with that in mind, I hope you can enter this letter into the record. It contains some of the many comments and questions that were raised in relation to the easement agreement, and I hope that these will be addressed. Thank you, Supervisor and members of the Town Board.
Thank you, Carolyn. And of course, we're especially interested in the comments from Wayne-Scott residents.
Moving on, that previous caller we lost is back. 3099 is the last four of their phone. I will unmute right now.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon, Town Board. This is Bonnie Brady calling, Long Island Commercial Fishing Association. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please continue.
Excellent. Sorry, I somehow got disconnected before. In any case, I made some comments yesterday at the trustees hearing. I'm going to be making similar comments today. I guess you all have heard plenty of my comments, so you could probably write some of them for me. But I would say offhand, even though commercial fishermen work out on the water, we all live within the town of East Hampton, those that are in regards to this project, which, while a modest product for some that don't have to deal with the sequelae of working inside of the project, it is a huge project for those of us that call the East End our home. I would like to ask the town board to wait until the Article 7 process is done. There have been no real substantial scientific study discussions regarding EMF in situ. There has been no fisheries mitigation and compensation plan that encompasses fully all parts of the survey, construction, operation, and decommissioning work. If areas are lost to commercial fishermen because the cable becomes exposed somewhere, there is no compensation for them. Peter, you and some of the other members of the board understand that different gear types work in different ways, and if in an area which is responsible for towing is suddenly lost, it's not something that they can just go around, and that for things like within the entire state waters. Now, I granted you are doing the land component. However, when you plug something into land that is initialized 36 miles away, that entire transmission cable would not be coming into East Hampton if you all did not say yes. And as a result, that entire length of cable where hundreds of fishermen fish on a yearly basis, they could lose extremely important fishing grounds without any way to be compensated for that. Some others have said this will not save the planet, it will fleece ratepayers. Nameplate specifically refers to what they call the project versus the capacity, which is what it does. You all have heard this and you know this. There are plenty of risks by saying yes to a project that is going to pile drive and jet plow Cox's Ledge. Peter, I know you're quite aware of what that could do to a cod nursery ground, and also the right whales. Then with the EMF, because we don't have the studies at all in situ, not modeling, not a literature review, but actually in situ, the problems that exist might last for a lifetime. We would greatly appreciate, especially with Block Island, if you, obviously I was on that walk last week regarding Wayne-Scott, and I was shocked to see about a 5 to 6 foot plunge in the erosion from the dune area. We know right now what can happen if the block, as in the Block Island project, which was supposed to have been done long horizontal directional drill, and once the approvals were gotten, they changed it to short horizontal directional drilling. There's a lot of wave action going on in general. You might want to think about that a little bit more. Maybe you've already decided, but I really think it's worth it to wait fishermen that live within the town of East Hampton deserve the same protections from our legislators. We have not had vibrant conversations that would protect the fishermen of the East End. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Bonnie. You too. Thank you.
Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 4106. Unmuting now.
Hi, Town Board. It's Courtney Garneau, Chair of the Eastern Long Island Chapter of Surfrider. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Good afternoon, Courtney.
Hello. Hi. Just to familiarize everyone, the Surfrider Foundation is dedicated to the protection and enjoyment of the world's ocean, waves, and beaches for all people through a powerful activist network. And we've always demanded bold action to protect our coasts and ocean, but this year it's imperative. We're working locally to tackle the plastic pollution problem, ensure clean water for all people, and demand meaningful federal action on climate change. We are in support of the South Fork Wind Project. We are considering all the new information just released in the DEIS on January 4th, but so far we have not seen any significant negative impacts from this proposed project, including the cable landing in Wainscott. Specifically regarding the cable landing, there will be some brief inconveniences to beachgoers, but no long-term effects that we have seen. The massive negative effects of our coast and ocean from climate change are a much larger problem, and we appreciate the board taking time to hear all the public comments, and we support that you guys have spent a great deal of time looking toward our future and our coasts and for our ocean, waves, and beaches. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Courtney. Michael?
Moving on to the next caller. The last
Next
4
caller,
digits
please.
are 4407. Unmuting right now.
Hello?
Hello, caller with the last 4 digits 4407. You're live
Good
with the town
afternoon.
board.
Yes. Deborah Foster?
Hello, Deb.
Hi. Good to see you guys again. As I'm watching you, I see there are former ZBA members and planning board members and attorney for the planning board. So I'm going to get a little technical here, okay? First, I want to thank you for all the work you've done with this, and the trustees have been extraordinary also. The access is what I'm going to talk about because there are some serious problems with the alternatives. As you know, I was on the town board for a while and also on the planning board and worked as the point person for our 2 comprehensive plans. So I'm familiar with the studies that are on our books and also the regulations and the laws of New York State and federal laws. Every one of the suggested accesses obviously comes into the Atlantic Ocean and our coastline. Those agencies, and all of us, I believe, want to protect the primary and barrier dunes. Well, there are laws that say exactly that there can be no, and I will send you the citations and also the boundaries. No, I think I'll mention them. But no, I won't. It's too long. At any rate, there is to be no interference, none, and they even say above, through, or below a primary or barrier dune, and I think we're all aware of why that would be. It's a serious safety issue. In fact, in Nappy, it's been breached. So there is one place that does not pierce or go under a primary barrier dune, and that's Beach Lane. It's the only access that will meet the requirements and have less environmental impact than all the other alternatives that come in over the ocean. I've been to every site. In fact, one of the recommendations has some of the highest dunes along Long Island. Therefore, I think it is correct and prudent to specifically look at Beach Lane. Well, why Beach Lane? Those of us that have been to that beautiful beach know that Beach Lane is a road ending. And whatever barrier dune was there has been eroded. So it's not going through a dune. I know that there is a recommendation that they come through Atlantic Avenue, which is a residential area also, and up Atlantic Beach. The trustees are correct in saying that that is very much used, and that, in fact, I can remember in the old days, and this is written up in the New York Times, it was called Asparagus Beach because there was hardly a place to lay down in a blanket. And that's still true, to the point where Amagansett residents insisted that the beach on Indian Wells become a beach for residents. So they're right that is used too much.
Deb, I'm going to ask you to wrap up your comments now. I'm going to ask you to try and wrap up your comments.
I'm ready to wrap. Therefore, I feel that the easement should and only meets the laws that said you should protect the barrier dunes, and you should pick any access that has the least environmental impact, and that is Beach Lane. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the next caller. The last four digits are 9493. Unmuting right now. Hello, caller. Are you there? Last four digits, 9493. Hearing nothing, Mr. Supervisor, I'll move on to the next caller. Last four digits are 9326. Unmuting now.
Good afternoon, Peter, Town Board. This is Kevin McAllister at Defend H2O. I had sent an email correspondence to you yesterday pertaining to mitigation, community benefits, I guess as it's termed. Today, I'd really like to address the beach landing. As a preface to that, I'd like to briefly share my experience in coastal processes. My master's degree is in coastal zone management, and for roughly 12 years, I worked in South Florida, basically on beach management. My master's is in dune management as well, so I think I'm qualified to speak to this. On several occasions, I put out public statements trying to alleviate concerns about the landing of the cable and specifically to exposure. I need to draw your attention that, you know, I'll say the community or opponents have been conflating the landing at Block Island, which was jet plow, a much shallower depth, and clearly in a higher energy zone, it should surprise no one that cable was exposed. In this instance, we are employing horizontal directional drilling. So both the depth and breadth of the span of cable bypassing the dune system and really, I'll say, emerging far enough offshore that I believe there's zero chance of exposure over the next time period. I'm talking decades. If you consider shoreline erosion as well as accretion, you know, we are dealing with a dynamic zone. I know there's been reference to the more recent storm and the depletion of the beach. It's not to say there isn't recovery. So clearly, as one has been speaking to coastal retreat as an appropriate strategy, I would be sounding alarm if I thought for one moment that this cable had any chance of exposure. So I hope I can alleviate your concerns as a town board. I would also say that, you know, fuller analysis of this certainly will happen at the agency review. And I'm confident they will come to the same conclusion. So I commend you for moving forward on this process. I think that's extremely important that we take this plunge, if you will, for sustainable energy, offshore energy, and in my opinion, the beach lane is the most appropriate landing site. Thanks for your consideration of my remarks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 8941. Unmuting right now.
Oh, sorry guys, I had to get off and get back in. I'm good.
Thank you. Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 1538. I'm sorry, 1538. Unmuting now. Hello, caller with the last 4, 1538. Are you there?
Yes.
You're live with the town board. Please state your name.
My name is Lawrence Zombeck.
Go ahead.
Supervisor. Thank you. Supervisor, you have said in multiple forums that Wayne Scott supports a beach lane route, and you only cited your election a few years ago. That is like saying that voting for a presidential candidate means you agree with every single point of their platform. You know that it is not true, and more likely reflects the opposition. You ignore the fact that 1,200 Wayne Scott community members signed a petition saying that beach lane route does not represent the minimum adverse environmental impact. Your attempt to frame this conversation as either you are for it or you are complicit in the climate
all the way to stand. We shift our feet from where
support the desires that the financial
Excuse me, Lawrence, we're having trouble. We're having some trouble with your audio.
And then of course,
Lawrence, can you hear me?
Supervisor.
Lawrence, if you can hear me, please try calling back. I think we lost your video. There seemed to be some interruption in the background or something.
We've lost the call, Mr. Supervisor. If they call back, I'll make sure that we get them up next.
Well, I hope he will call back, and if somebody listening now knows Lawrence, can give him a phone call and ask him to please jump back on. We want to hear his comments.
Should I move on to the next caller?
Yes, please.
Okay, the next caller, the last 4 digits are 2593. I'm unmuting now. Caller, last 4 digits are 2593. Are you there? Hearing nothing, I'll move on to the next caller. Looks like the same caller called in twice, so I'll try this next one. I'm unmuting now, 2593 again. Hello, caller. 2593, are you there? Hearing nothing, I'll move on to the next caller. The previous caller we lost is back. 1538, I'm going to unmute you now.
thank you very much, Supervisor. You have said
You're
in
welcome.
multiple forums that Wayne, you have said in multiple forums that Wayne Scott supports a beach lane route. You cited your election a few years ago. That is like saying that voting for a presidential candidate
means you agree with every single point of their platform. You know that is not true, and more likely reflects the opposition. Please don't ignore the fact that 1,200 Wayne Scott community members signed a petition saying that a beach lane route does not represent the minimum adverse environmental impact. Please don't attempt to frame this conversation as either you are for the environment or you are complicit in the climate crisis if you do not support the desired route that the developer wants. This is about the minimum adverse environmental impact. The developer created a Wayne Scott route and then a poison pill. It really isn't an alternative in order to force the choice of Beach Lane. You need to do this project, but it needs to be the right way. Just because there is a climate crisis does not mean you need to negotiate bad contracts. There are a lot of significant issues. Please take the time to do this right for the families who live in Wayne Scott. Thank you.
Lawrence, I'm sorry about the interruption in your audio, and I do appreciate you were able to get back on the line and complete your comments. Thank you for calling in today.
Thank you for hearing me.
Moving on to the next caller. The last 4 digits are 8851. Unmuting now. Caller, you're live with the town board. Last 4 digits of your phone are 8851. Are you there? Hearing nothing, Mr. Supervisor, I'll move on. At this time, we've gone through the whole queue. There are 3 numbers still on hold who I went to, and there was no audio. Would you like me to circle back?
Yes, Michael, if you could please circle back, and then we'll give a few moments for others to call in as well.
Okay, going back to the caller with the last 4 of 4956. Unmuting now.
Thank you for hearing me.
Caller with the last 4 digits, 4956. You're live with the town board. Are you there? Hearing nothing, Mr. Supervisor, I'll move on to last 4 digits are 9493. Second try. Unmuting now. Hello, caller. Last 4 digits 9493. Are you there? Hearing nothing, Mr. Supervisor, I'll move on. The last 4 digits of the next caller are 2593. Unmuting now. Hello, caller. Last 4 digits 2593. Are you there? Hearing nothing, Mr. Supervisor, we've gone through our entire list of current callers.
Well, at this point, nearly 2 hours into our meeting and having heard from no less than 26 individuals commenting on the topic today, I think it's time to move on. But before we do, I just want to reiterate my pleasure in the fact that so many have taken a moment in their time to comment directly to us about their questions and concerns. We will certainly collect and collate and review all these questions and concerns, and again take up the matter at our next work session, which is January 19th, for the purpose of reviewing those comments and giving answers to those questions. So at this point, I would like to move on. We do have a few resolutions to offer. And I believe do we have any executive session items for today? Okay. In that case,
I would say yes. We need to discuss contracts or license agreements.
Okay, so when we get to that part of the meeting, I'll entertain that motion for exec. The first resolution we have for today is Resolution 2021-154. And this is a bond for $75,000 for the master plan and code update relating to wireless communication services. As we've talked in the past, this is an ongoing effort that the town is engaged in rewriting our wireless code. I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, we need a roll
Need a
call.
roll call.
Roll call, please, Carol.
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilman Lees,
Aye.
Councilwoman Overby,
Aye.
Councilman Bragman,
You're on mute.
Jeff, you're muted.
Aye.
Supervisor Van Scoyac.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 2021-155 is to reappoint Rachel Grusin, the Waterfront Advisory Committee, for an additional 5-year term, retroactive September 4th, 2020, expiring December 31st, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Resolution 156 is to authorize emergency repairs on Ocean Parkway.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Well, are we not doing liaison reports today?
Do you have a liaison report?
I do. I just, it was on the agenda, so I assume we were doing it.
Please continue, Kathy.
Great. So it's a new year, and the Town of East Hampton's Human Services Department continues to provide assistance to seniors and other community members in need. They operate Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and those in need of assistance should call 631-329-6939. They continue to prepare and deliver meals. Last week, they delivered 1,375 meals to 275 seniors, and we did get a final number of meals served and distributed in 2020, and that the actual number is 56,915 meals. They continue to make weekly wellness calls to seniors just to determine that everyone is well and not in need of assistance. And our town staff continues to be available to pick up and deliver free of charge groceries, prescriptions, and other essentials as long as they were prepaid in advance. Our adult daycare program has gone virtual now. It's up to 3 days per week for an hour each day. This program is for folks 60 plus who are functionally impaired mentally and or physically. And the 1 hour program is modeled off of the full day program and provides socialization and movement. The town is going to continue in 2021 to partner with Suffolk County on their 311 rapid response program. That's the number you call if you need assistance. And this is to provide food for homebound families in dire need. What we're finding is families that are finding themselves in quarantine have contacted the county, and within 24 hours, town transportation folks deliver the package of food, which is non-perishable food items, within 24 hours. We've also, David and I have gotten some outreach from community members that are inquiring how they can help those in our community that are struggling to pay their heating and utility bills. And fortunately, there are two worthy organizations that serve that specific community need. One is the outreach program at Most Holy Trinity Church here in East Hampton. This program helps anyone in the community that faces economic difficulties. They use an intake form and budget fact sheet to gather personal information in order to assess the family situation. Referrals come from the town's Human Services Department as well as clergy from other denominations. So while Most Holy Trinity has this mechanism in place to help those in need, you do not need to be a member of their parish. And this program depends on donation and helps people that face financial crisis with their utility bills like PSE&G, water and heat. The other worthy organization is the Community Council, which has been providing emergency assistance to residents of East Hampton Town for 77 years. Their membership is all volunteer and they're reliant on donations, and they work as a liaison with support groups within our community. And their role changes based on the needs and availability of resources, often filling in gaps where other organizations may not be able to assist. And their clients are any resident within the town of East Hampton in need of emergency or temporary assistance. And they help individuals and families alike, with most of their clients being the elderly and seasonal laborers. And most of the assistance is provided in the form of rent payments and utility payments, like electric, oil, or gas for heat. So if anyone is interested in those programs or is interested in making a donation to one of those programs, they can call my office at 631-324-3187, and I can give them more information. Just wanted to touch base on operations happening in Carol's second job, which is receiver of taxes. We've just finished the tax collection for the first half of this year. As of yesterday, we have received and distributed to the various taxing jurisdictions, such as schools, fire departments, and the town, over $63 million. And we expect to receive and distribute half of the tax due for the entire year by the end of this week, which totals about $95 million. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention that Saturday evening, again, David and I had the privilege of attending the East Hampton Clericus Prayer Vigil for National Unity. And 9 clergy from houses of worship throughout the town lent their voices, including clericus from St. Luke's, the First Presbyterian Church, the Jewish Center of the Hamptons, St. Michael's, Springs Presbyterian Church, the Calvary Baptist Church, and Montauk Community Church. And we were also joined by Village Police Chief Mike Tracy. And personally, I was quite moved by the service, and I have to say that my spirits were lifted and I felt hopeful. We closed the vigil in song led by Rabbi and Cantor Deborah Stein. And the refrain of the song was, "Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms." And it was a very beautiful service. It was very well attended. And I thank them for bringing us all together last Saturday night. And that's my report for today.
Thank you, Kathy. David.
Yes, I have a brief report for everyone. In aquaculture, I want to let everyone know that the completion of the infrastructure needs at that building had been done. There was new windows. We're going to currently be looking at trying to add some insulation upcoming. Also in aquaculture, the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Program is having another meeting of their 10-year review. That'll be on January 15th at 3:30 p.m. You need to pre-register for this Zoom meeting. You can contact the Suffolk County at 631-853-5192 to get information about that meeting and to get information how to pre-register for that. I had a great pleasure last week of sitting in and prior to my official role on the new liaison for the Montauk CAC. It was great to see many familiar faces that I know from the Montauk area, new faces, and for them to see mine also. They all thank Sylvia tremendously for the last 3 years. A wonderful service that you've done out there, Sylvia. And I hope I can be as great as liaison out there as you have been over the years. You will be missed. That was the going theme on there. I hope I can fill those roles in those shoes. I want to.
You're not going to fill those shoes, David. You look funny in heels anyway.
I want to congratulate Diane Houseman as being reelected to the chairwoman, and also to Marcy Waterman also for being reelected to the secretary. Those are great roles that our volunteer CAC fulfilled. I thank them, and so did the rest of the committee. Primarily, we were discussing some other things about the EV charging stations and some of the lights that are on them. I'm working with Natural Resources to discuss about options that we have for those lights to try to dim them, make them a little more compliant to what our character of our neighborhood would be. And we had a a discussion about their beach subcommittee from Ray Cortell, who we had a meeting. I had personally had a meeting with him and other members of the town, including Chief Ed Michaels and Buildings and Grounds, about how we can enact some inventive and some better ways to assist on the beaches, not just for this year of COVID, or from last year of COVID into this next coming year, but also for long term. We'll continue with that. The Montauk CAC also made a motion to form a subcommittee, and the subcommittee is primarily to monitor issues that are happening at the East Hampton Airport for this calendar year, as they have a specific interest in that then too. We did have a discussion about, at that time, which it seems almost months ago, in the vaccine rollout. They were looking for more information about the vaccine rollout distribution, and I have tried to forward them as much information that comes into our offices out to them directly. I will continue to do so. So thank you to all of them, and thank you for having me there. I look forward to doing it more often now. Let me just go into one other thing here. I want to let everyone now know that the water quality improvement grant applications are now open for calendar year 2021. The grants will be available starting yesterday, January 11th, 2021, and the due date now is March 11th, 2021 by 4 p.m. The town of East Hampton has issued requests for applications for grants for water quality improvements that may be eligible for funding through the Community Preservation Fund. Again, as we know, 20% of our town CPF proceeds go from real estate transfer tax. Transfers go to this program right now. To apply for funding, application must be completed and submitted along with detailed narratives and supporting information by close of business on March 11th of 2021. That's 4 p.m. They will be reviewed, and the applications will be evaluated and scored in accordance with the evaluation criteria that was been set forth by the town's Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee. All projects that are recommended for funding will be presented to the town board for a future resolution and public hearing. If individuals are interested in further information about this 2021 RFA application, they can go to the town's website at ehamptony.gov/689/water-quality-RFA-grants, or contact us at 631-324-0496. And I believe that is all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Sylvia?
Sure. The Business Recovery Group met last Wednesday. One of the things we get at that Wednesday morning meeting is updates for the Southampton Hospital and the other hospitals on the eastern end of Long Island. Southampton Hospital has had, in the past 2 weeks, has had a high of 35 people in the hospital for COVID and a low of the mid-20s. Right now, they're in the mid-20s. I expect that number is going to change again tomorrow when we have our meeting. Stony Brook Hospital has 173 COVID patients, and Eastern Long Island has 5 COVID patients. We are posting on our 3 media platforms of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And right now, those platforms are giving information about the testing sites, about what's happening with COVID statewide and what's happening with vaccinations statewide. Some of those things seem to be changing. We should be, I think, right today in 1B, and Peter's office can verify that if we are starting in the 1B category. The group is also concerned and wants postings about the Paycheck Protection Plan so that businesses in East Hampton can get to the second rollout, the second offering, or as some have said, the second draw on the PPP plan. So those posts will also be going out this week. We met on Saturday was the Wayne-Scott CAC. I think you've heard from several members, and they sent a letter about what we were talking about today. So we'll be able to answer and look at those questions that they had. I also went over with them. There is a seminar coming up on the 14th that is also going to deal with the South Fork Wind Farm. and that's being done by CCOM. Their information should be on our website, and it was also a post on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We talked about the upcoming Wayne-Scott Hamlet plan, and right now it's being scheduled for January the 19th, but Peter, I'm wondering if you want to move that to a different day because of what you said this morning, that you're going to be able, you want another, and perhaps having some of our experts talked about the South Fork Wind Farm on the 19th. Is this going to be too much, or do you want to, I just need to know so I can tell the Wayne-Scott CAC what to expect. What do you think is going to be best for the community?
Well, I had expected that we would spend a great deal of time going over the many questions that were asked today. And, so as time allows, I mean, I certainly would entertain, further discussion, but any other comments from the board on that particular issue?
Well, I think we should probably look at all of that. I know that a lot of things got moved to the meeting next Tuesday because we didn't have a work session last week, and this one was devoted to the wind farm. So maybe, your office should look at all the topics that board members are proposing and then make a decision on, what makes the most sense.
Look at the time and see what makes sense. That seems appropriate. So we'll try and give you an answer on that.
Okay.
Later.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. The Energy Sustainability Committee subcommittee met. They're also working on looking at the fleet efficiency, that the department heads get that policy that we passed at the end of December. And they're also looking into town buildings, how to set a goal for them to be net zero in the next couple of years, so that they can, as they upgrade HVA systems and different systems within those buildings, that they are net zero upgrades. And they would be willing to help in along with the, see if any grants are available, and along with Natural Resources Department to work on that. And that's it. That's my report.
Thank you, Sylvia. Jeff?
Well, I wanted to say a few words about LTV, which was recognized by the Star as being key players during this rather difficult COVID time, with a particular recognition of Jason Nauer, whom we all know for getting the technical challenges together on Zoom and arranging the mechanisms to have our meetings, which are really becoming a lot smoother despite some of the audio difficulties we heard today. And recognizing Michael Clark for working through a stroke in the midst of the COVID epidemic, which was a little scary, but ended well. Morgan Vaughn for pitching in and helping out, the former director, and Patrice Jacobson, program director, Ellen Watson, who many of us know, who handles operations, Mitch Tremblay, Jody Gambino, a friend of my son's from years ago, is at LTV and helping out with his technical expertise, Matt Chapman, Riley Rose, and Mike Levin, and of course, Jeannie Henderson, who was there a long time handling the archives, and we are working on a grant with NYU. And there was another article in the Star about the fact that those archives contain interviews with Baymen who are no longer with us, and constitute an important part of the historic record of the town. So it's hopeful that we can get those edited and formatted so that we can start circulating them again to the public at large. The Housing Authority is moving along with Gansett Meadow. At the last report, and this was a little while ago, they had 7 apartments in that plan that had been unassigned, 2 3-bedrooms and a 1-bedroom. And they're now open to individuals that make up to 90% of the adjusted mean income under HUD to try to fill those vacancies. I also noted that Share the Harvest is sharing.
Can I ask a question on that, Jeff? Does that mean that they went through the entire list of the 500 applicants also?
I will have to get back to you on that. I don't know exactly how they handled the list, but I can get back to you. I just know that they only have 7 apartments that are unassigned at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And I noticed that Share the Harvest Farm has expanded their outreach. It's probably known to Kathy, and they're helping out with food for senior citizens and affordable housing, the retreat under the direction of Rose Skellinger. I wanted to mention that some time ago I presented a resolution in support of legislation that Fred Thiel and a state senator had sponsored, which would change the regulatory framework for the Public Service Commission in a fairly important way. It's a first step. It's not the end of the discussion about PSC regulation of LIPA and PSEG. And that piece of legislation was sitting on the governor's desk, and it looked a little iffy as to whether it would be signed, but I'm happy to report that it was signed. And I can't help but think that our memorializing resolution helped that. I think, as I said, there's more to go. I've spoken to Fred about next steps. We're hoping there's some other changes we can make that will make oversight and accountability improve. I also wanted to jump back to the Housing Authority and mention that we just got our documents, what they call the environmental assessment form. For folks listening to this, that's the reviewing form that we do under SECRA for our action to rezone the property at 286 and 290 3 Mile Harbor Road by placing it within an affordable housing overlay district, which is a first step and a necessary step to consider it as a site for affordable housing. So the fact that we have these environmental review documents to review means that we can likely get a resolution on for approval fairly quickly. And I think that's an important step, and actually one that we've managed to get to fairly quickly, all things considered. I've been sitting in on the Police Reform Committee. I don't participate because my participation would create a quorum, but the committee is working on a survey in an effort to outreach. Kathy's been instrumental on that. And I just wanted to say the group is a highly dedicated, very interesting group. People are all involved in the community and brought some very interesting perspectives on the issues, and it's fun to work with somebody from the PBA and the police chief. I did want to make a suggestion. I know that we're expanding the number of members on the committee, and I do think that we need to try to make that committee more diverse. It's not really particularly diverse, and one of the big goals, in fact, I would say a major focus of the police collaborative, is to engage communities that are perhaps more exposed to police conduct and perhaps less likely to come forward and want to participate in open discussions like that. So we are talking about ways to engage that community, and I just wanted to say that I encourage that kind of outreach. I know we've done some in the past, and we've had some discussions that it doesn't always work, but I think given the mandate from the governor that we really have to continue making the kind of effort so that we can get a little bit more diversity on that committee. We really, I'm hoping that our survey will work. Apparently Riverhead's had good luck with the survey, their survey, but we really need to hear from these underrepresented communities that may find themselves in more contact with the police department. And I'm sure the committee will work with it. And on the whole, I've been impressed by their commitment, and it's actually fun to watch the give and take of the committee members wrestling with some really difficult issues, some of which we know a lot about and some of which we don't. And Chief Sarlo has been very good at filling us in on some of the policies, the federal mandates, and the accreditation that the department is subject to, so that we don't get lost in the weeds. So I've been enjoying that. Would have liked to have participated in it more, given my past experience as an assistant district attorney in New York, but I'm enjoying my role as an observer.
Oh, it's interesting. I didn't actually bring up the survey today because it's
You're
not,
waiting
you know,
for the town supervisor to get his liaison report.
yes, and the survey isn't soup yet. You know, we, brought a 46 question survey to the committee that yesterday they'd like to see us, tighten it up a bit. So, it's still a work in progress. And regarding, unfortunately, yesterday, a couple of members of our committee couldn't join us, like Yvonne Tovar and Michael Tamay, and Joy Jackson came late. We are adding a new member. We just added Walter Bloomberg in order to represent the disability community. So, from my perspective, the committee is quite diverse. We have reached out to other folks that could represent different constituencies, but it's challenging for people sometimes to be able to make time in the middle of the day to be, on a hour and a half, Zoom call.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge your work on that survey, because it's I know they're hard. I worked on one regarding the motels at the height of the summer COVID thing, and they're tough to do and really hard to edit down. And the problem is people do get, your eyes tend to glaze if the survey's too long. So I appreciate your work. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Well, I might as well start with the Police Reform Committee, since that's where you left off. I certainly would encourage you, Jeff, if you have any other members to suggest that you do so. We currently have 2 African-American members, 2 Latinx members. We have representative from OLA. We have representatives from the disabilities community, substance and domestic abuse. We have members of the LGBTQ community. We have a rabbi, minister. If there's any area of representation within the town that you don't think is covered, again, we'd invite your suggestions on any member to appoint to the committee. I think that is our primary goal, is to reach deeply within all areas of our community so that we have a full and clear understanding as to the perception of police as well as the actual conduct. So, I think that effort is ongoing. That's really, I think, the primary goal of the survey. Once it's completed and circulated, we certainly want to circulate it quite broadly. Jeff mentioned that that Riverhead had some success with theirs. I think they had about 1,100 responses to theirs as of the date of the meeting. Again, it's a really broad and diverse group of really dedicated individuals. I'm very pleased with the membership, and I think it's important, having our own police chief and a member of the PBA on the committee is also very instructive, in that having committee members have direct engagement and better understanding of what kind of safeguards are already in place, what types of community policing actions have been put into procedurally to engage in a very constructive way, and to bring up the overall, I think, support of the community of our police department is important. I want to mention that the town clerk received, between Christmas and New Year's on December 30th, just before the New Year's holiday, a petition from the proponents for incorporation of Wainscott. At our organizational meeting, we hired outside counsel to help the supervisor comply and fulfill all the requirements. and all the ministerial duties that fall upon my shoulders in this effort. We will be scheduling a hearing for on the objections of incorporation on February 5th at 11 a.m. That will be conducted in the same manner that we currently conduct our town board meetings. LTV will host us. LTV, as you know, is within the proposed incorporation boundaries. So again, we'll be moving forward on that. Vaccine rollout is a major topic of interest, I think, for everyone, having come through, nearly a year of being affected by the pandemic and everybody having to change their lifestyles. Having the vaccine broadly administered throughout our country and our town is really, I think, job one at this point. David and I met with our local specialist here, Dr. Polsky, who's an epidemiologist with the NYC Langone system, discussing what might be necessary to roll out the vaccine. Currently, there is no vaccine available in East Hampton and many communities throughout Long Island and the country. The state has been getting limited doses of 300,000 doses at a shot, no pun intended, and that they are being distributed from centralized locations. I would urge everyone to go to the town's website or the state website and to sign up, go through the process of registering to see if and when you are eligible for the vaccine. I just got, during this meeting, an email from state representatives saying that the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, have now issued a statement that all persons over 65 should be in phase 1B of the distribution process. And that's the process we're in right now. So again, the state still has to figure out how they're going to distribute. I've made it very clear to the state on numerous calls that we will be ready to aid and make available all resources necessary to ensure that our residents get vaccine as soon as possible. In that effort, I've stated in my State of the Town address that the CDCH building is going to be made available specifically for that purpose. We had discussions with Dr. Polsky about that. I've also had subsequent conversations with George Dempsey, and we'll be attending a meeting later with the East Hampton Healthcare Foundation to work out plans for that. David Lease is the liaison in buildings and grounds, has been instrumental so far in getting the CDCH building up and running. So we'll be involved with that. I know, Jeff, you had sent me an email about participation in that meeting. Again, I don't have a problem with you attending. You know full well what the restrictions are in terms of participation when you get more than 2 board members in a single meeting. Somebody can't really actively participate. Again, this is not a meeting of mine, but if the invitation's extended, certainly I think it would be appropriate for you to attend on that basis.
Okay, that'd be fine. Thank you. If you just send me the contact.
Right, I will, and I'll follow up on that today as well. So that again is the most important thing I think for people to do right now. Go to the website and go ahead and register so that as this process evolves and vaccines made available, that you will be contacted to schedule an appointment at one of the locations listed. Again, we're working very hard to convince the state and the county to have a local site here in town, and we're ready and able to put forward whatever resources necessary to ensure that for our residents. Again, it's going to come down to just plain numbers of vaccine right now. But we think that having a center ready to go will also aid in that effort. We have
Peter, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
You had just said is this a special meeting that we're having on February 5th at 11 a.m.?
Yes.
So it's Friday, February 5th at 11 a.m.
That's
Okay.
correct. And that's in order to fulfill the time constraints dictated by New York State Village law for incorporation. They have very strict time frames, 30 days to make a ruling. There's posting requirements. You have to hold the meeting within 20 and 30 days of the posting. And the postings, I believe, scheduled to be printed, Carol. And we actually have a resolution which we'll go back to today, to designate a second paper of record so that we can comply with the very strict posting dates. We have a weekly paper that's currently listed as the paper of record. And so there's a need to have a second posting within a prescribed time period. John's preparing that resolution. Again, this is evolving very quickly, I think, particularly given the date that the petition was submitted meant that we really couldn't begin some of those efforts until after the organizational meeting on the 5th. So we kind of lost a week, basically, but we'll do everything we can to ensure that my ministerial duties under the law are fully executed.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have to say? So again, there was also a state webinar last night on the vaccine rollout, which took place at 7 o'clock. We, as of this morning, did not have a link to a recorded version. It was a live webinar, and so many people got on that it crashed the site. I guess shouldn't be a surprise.
I just recently received that, Peter. I can get that to your office as far as a live.
Yeah, I know. First thing this morning, I had hoped to be able to speak about it, but it wasn't in at the time the meeting started. So I know Joanne was working on getting that together for us so we can circulate and put it up on the website. But the webinar, again, conflicted with my first meeting with the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee. And I sent out an email, I think probably at 4 o'clock as soon as I got news about the webinar, about the conflict. And because I was concerned, first of all, that the members of CAC would take great interest in the webinar and the information. And also, I wanted to also be aware of it. So I requested that we start the meeting a half hour early and then move to the webinar at 7. Because of that, a number of people weren't able to attend the meeting a little early. I don't recall what the exact roll call was, but the discussion at the CAC was about primarily and initially the membership and whether or not the CAC could adopt rules on membership to restrict members who were not participating from voting. And they had a couple examples of people who were appointed to the committee and really didn't show up all year pretty much and only showed up to vote on officers. They asked about that, whether or not, initially they asked the town board if the town board would consider passing a resolution mandating attendance policies. And I said that was really kind of contrary to what the spirit of Citizens Advisory Committee was, and that we're really trying to engage the participation within the hamlets and not be quite so rigid and strict. But I do understand that if they have certain members who really don't participate, and suggested that they just go ahead and set their own rules as long as those rules don't violate their purview, that they could set some requirements on attendance in order to be an active and voting member. Of course, anybody in the public who wants to participate in the meeting is eligible to do so, regardless of their attendance. But for the purpose of voting on specific resolutions, they would keep it in line with the voting with attendance. let's see, the wireless committee has also been meeting. And again, we just bonded today for the payment to consultants that we've entered into contract with. And so at this point, the consultants will be engaging directly with with the committee in charting out a course for a full revision of the town's wireless communications code. They'll also be charged with giving us a coverage map of the entire town to fully identify areas where coverage is lacking in an effort for us to better understand where those specific gaps occur and how we can alleviate those gaps with the least number of towers and the most number of providers. So, I think at this point, especially during this pandemic, we've really seen just how much our community has come to rely upon solid communications, not just for emergency purposes, but also for work after school study, remote study, as well as entertainment. And the infrastructure we have really does not provide, I think, adequately some of the coverage that really needs to be available. So we'll continue looking at that and report back as we make progress. And I think that's it for me. John, do you have a further resolution for us? Yeah, you're on mute, John.
Yeah, I like to offer resolution ID 23761. This is the designated additional official newspaper. We're designating a second official newspaper of the town of East Hampton, whereas we designate the Express News Group, the Southampton Press, and the East Hampton Press, and Sag Harbor Express as the official newspaper of the town of East Hampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. And Michael, do we have any callers on the line?
We do, in fact. We have one new caller, which I can unmute right now. The last four digits of this caller are 3691. I will unmute now.
Hello, I'm calling about offshore wind. May I address that subject?
Yes, you may. Please identify yourself for the record.
So my name is Lena Tabori, and hello, Peter, Sylvia, David, Kathy, Jeff. I'm in love with this town, and I have been since I bought my house here 50 years ago. I'm calling today to express my support for the offshore wind project and for the extraordinary courage that the town board has presented. Climate change, in its growing assault upon the life of the planet, affects our own lives extremely directly. The West Coast has its wildfires. Other states are afflicted by significant droughts, hurricanes, other extreme weather events. In East Hampton, we're being affected by rising sea levels and the growing warmth and acidification of our waters. I don't need to point out to anybody the consequences to our homes as they suffer increasing flooding, as our water supplies are threatened and our beaches erode. I worry for our sea life and the livelihoods of our fishermen, like so many of my neighbors. And I miss the scallops we didn't have this year. We have to fix this. Across the country, citizens and political leaders are wrestling with how their unique circumstances can be used for mitigation of this global threat. It's clear to everyone that we have to electrify everything and that we have to fill that electricity pipeline with increasing amounts of renewable energy. Where is it going to come from if we are not going to share in this? East Hampton has such a unique opportunity as a coastal community on the Atlantic Ocean. Other states like Texas, with more wind turbines than any state in the nation, or California as the undisputed leader when it comes to solar, have other possibilities to bring renewables on board. But we have the ocean, as does the UK, where Ørsted already has 12 wind farms, with more on the way, supplying currently more than 4 million UK homes with green energy. This is the path that you, the Town Board of East Hampton, have been setting for us with the South Fork Wind Farm. You and we, as residents of this amazing town, have been fighting for the opportunity to do our part in battling climate change for years now. I mean, this has been going on for 3 to 4 years, for God's sake. And we've done things in that period of time, but nothing that matches the energy the wind farms will bring. The time has come for East Hampton to support renewable energy through leasing access for offshore wind. How exhilarating. I know that the cable landing in Wainscott, by far, by the way, the shortest route and inconveniencing the fewest number of residents, I know it's going to be discomforting while the cable is being laid along those residential streets. I don't live on one of the roads involved, but if I did and I had the opportunity for the period of those 6 winter months, as it is planned, to be disrupted by the noise or the difficulty of access as construction workers lay cable in front of my house, I think I would be grateful and not angry, as we all are when water pipes are laid. I would think about what I could tell my grandchildren about the part that I played in making their world a safer place. And weirdly, I would remember how incredibly fast time goes. I mean, can you imagine that last year at this time, we had no idea about COVID? It's like, I feel like on the one hand, it was forever, and on the other hand, I just snapped my fingers and it's gone. And I think the cable construction will be the same. But the results will be forever, as the wind will continue to blow and thousands of homes across the state will benefit forever with the green energy that is provided. So I'm just really here to thank the board for keeping this big picture in view throughout this process, as you are all working so incredibly hard to bring this to a conclusion. I can't fathom how you manage to juggle all your priorities. I'm astonished on a daily basis how you move as much forward as you do, protecting this paradise that we live in. I know that was much too long. I'm really sorry, but I just had to get it all out there.
Thank you, Lena, and I'm sorry we didn't get to you earlier. And if we get any other calls in the next couple of minutes, we'll certainly take those as well.
There are no other current
So
callers
at this
on the
point,
line, Mr. Supervisor.
I'm sorry?
There are no other callers on the line.
No other callers? Okay. All right, so at this point, we've adopted all our resolutions. We'll entertain a motion to go in exec, but before we do, I just want to reiterate, we will, again, we'll be taking all the comments received today, all the questions, and we will review them and answer them on the 19th, which is next Tuesday at 11 a.m. At our work session there. I appreciate again everyone's input and the quorum and the manner in which people presented what I know is a hotly debated topic within the hamlet of Wainscott along the cable route particularly. And again, we appreciate all those comments from Wainscott particularly as well.
Excuse me, Mr. Supervisor, there is a new caller if you'd like. Oh, they just hung up. Sorry. Never mind.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Michael. We'll entertain a motion to go.
I'd like to make a motion to go into exec session for contracts, license agreement, and a personnel matter. Kathleen Rood had sent something this morning. So it is now 3:33. When would you like to?
1:33. Shall we reconvene at 2:15? Does that work for everyone?
That's great.
Yes, it does.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll send the link shortly. Stay safe and be well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Stay safe, everyone. Please go to the town website, the state website, and sign up for your vaccine.
Yep. 2:15, right, is when we
We'll
reconvene.
reconvene at 2:15 in exec. I'll send the link shortly.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks,
Stay
Mike.
Thanks,
safe.
everyone.